Kings get wisdom. Let's start to a king that received it, for he had a wish. Let's go to 1 Kings chapter 3 and verse 7. It says here, now, O Lord my God, Solomon says, you have made your servant king instead of David my father, and I am a little child. Now look at that. It says in Proverbs 11:2, when pride comes, then shame comes, but with the lowly, like Solomon here, the lowly is wisdom. And this is exactly what Solomon was doing. I'm going to read Hebrews 5, just the last verses. Hold your spot in Kings. It says, Paul writes, for everyone who is partaking of milk, isn't that like a little child? Is unskilled in the word of righteousness because he's an infant. That's what he said. Isn't this beautiful? Now listen to the next verse. But solid food is for those who are fully grown, that's maturity, who through repeated practice, you're going to hear this in the sermon. You're keeping the Sabbath right now, right? And you're keeping it week after week. Through repeated practice, have had their senses trained, notice, to discern between good and evil. And that's exactly what Solomon wanted, because we're going to read here, I'm just a little child. I drink milk. He says, I do not know how to go out or come in. Look at this, John 10. What did Jesus say? Those that are saved will go in and out of the door. This is all written for us, brethren. The whole Bible's written for us. King Solomon sitting in a physical throne, he did then, but it's a type, and you're going to see this, that kings get wisdom. He's prepping us to go in and out of what? New Jerusalem. He ruled in Jerusalem, correct? It says, and your servant is in the midst of your people whom you have chosen. He knew he had to tap into Jesus, the Word, because he's in the midst of the churches. A numerous people who cannot be numbered nor counted for multitude. Now, therefore, give to your servant an understanding heart. Underline that. Understanding kingdom heart. You're going to see that wisdom and understanding go hand in hand. To what? To judge your people. And we're going to end with that in the sermon. But this is all about to manage God's stuff in his kingdom. And he has a lot of stuff. Many things will be going on, and he needs kings. That's why it says in Revelation 5:10, you're called to be kings. It says, your people, why? To discern, there it is again, between good and evil. Remember Eve? The serpent came and deceived Eve. Said, no, you could discern good and evil. You could do it with your own wit, basically. You choose what is right. Become like a god. You choose. Isn't that what we have on this earth? Everyone doing what they think is right? How is it working out? You're going to understand that's earthly wisdom, and that's what Eve tried to tap into, and that leads to what? Death. But not the wisdom that is from above. For who is able to judge this? You're great people. I need help, God, please. This is my wish. And the word was good in the eyes of the Lord, that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said to him, because you have not asked for the three wishes, this is where they get that from, have not asked for yourself long life, and have not asked riches for yourself, that's two, and not have asked life of your enemies, those three, but have asked for yourself understanding to judge justly. Behold, I have done according to your words. Lo, I have given you a wise, get wisdom, a wise and understanding heart. Those two. So that there was none like you before you, and after none shall arise like you, King Solomon. And I also have given you that which you have not asked. Now, this will be for us if we get wisdom now. In the kingdom, we will receive these things, both riches and honor. We'll see that. So that there shall not be any among the kings, plural, like you all your days. It's referring there to earthly kings. Therefore, if you will walk in my ways, there is a prerequisite, a condition in the contract. If you will walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandments, isn't that awesome? What will happen as your father David walked? Then I will lengthen your days. It's not a nutritious diet. It's following the commandments of God. That's what it is. And that's exactly what God did. And what flourished? Solomon. He did. His whole kingdom. It was the biggest and mightiest, most beautiful kingdom the world has ever seen. And God gave that as a type for us, for his future kingdom. I want to navigate to Proverbs 4. Who wrote Proverbs? Who wrote Proverbs? Yes, Solomon. How many Proverbs are in the 31 chapters? How many? 915. 915. How many Proverbs did Solomon write? Total, 3,000 it says. And guess what? We have access to them all. Does that put a smile on your face? Or is that not that great? We all have access, future kings, to what? Get wisdom. Grab it. Focus on it. It says here in Proverbs 4, verse 5, get wisdom, the sermon title. They have that slogan, got milk. It's on bumper stickers, right? It was a powerful campaign back in the 90s. It was. It's one of the leading of all time advertisements. But you know what's better than that, brethren? The bumper sticker that Solomon got. Probably had it on his chariot. And he had horses, 12,000 of them. It said, get wisdom. And here he is saying, this is the bumper sticker that you must acquire. Get wisdom, no notice, hand in hand, get understanding. Forget it not, nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she shall keep you. Love her, and she shall preserve you. Wisdom is the principal thing. Here it is again. The bumper sticker. Get wisdom. And with all you're getting, get understanding. Now, wisdom is the ability to see the future. 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 Does the fool hear that echo? No, he doesn't. Now, understanding is knowing why things work the way they do, how they work. I understand that now. The Sabbath, after keeping it for 18 of them, it pictures the kingdom. And then on the 19th, you start keeping the Sabbath about that focus. And you start by you start to understand. That's why wisdom and understanding go hand in hand. Verse 8, exalt her, and she will promote you. Do you want to be promoted? You know who doesn't want to be promoted? The fool. So what's your vision? We should be always advancing, always wanting to achieve more, grab more. For who? For God to sit on that throne one day and be prepared. If we can't succeed in the simulator, why would God ever go, come up here like he does to the two witnesses? Be always in the mindset to do better, to do stronger, to be wise for God. You'll be promoted. She shall bring you honor when you embrace her. She shall place upon your head a garland of grace. It's beautiful with all those leaves and flowers. She shall bestow upon you, here it is, a crown of glory, which will happen on Pentecost. This is how you get there. You get wisdom, and it's from above. This is a prerequisite. We have time in the simulation. And this is exactly what God wants to do on this earth. Not the new earth, this earth. He's looking for those that want to be like Solomon, say, I don't want to be a child. I want to grow. I want to mature. And I can only do this by tapping in to your wisdom. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 8, verses 1 to 3. Does not wisdom call? How about you in John 6:44? You can't come to the Father unless he draws you. He represents wisdom, the Father. So wisdom calls you, calling all future kings. In this whole book, I hope you're studying this book. It should be every day. We should tap in to the book of Proverbs. And does not understanding put forth her voice? I'm beginning to understand. She stands in the top of high places, by the place where the paths meet. What should I do at this crossroad in the simulator? Should I take a right? Should I take a left? And men argue, right? They argue for centuries. We go, what does the Bible say? We tap into that wisdom so we can make that right, left, two lefts. And then finally, at Pentecost, make it to his kingdom. Because God guided us through his wisdom and understanding. Do you want to go through those pearly gates and receive the crown of glory? Well, future kings, listen up. Get wisdom. Here we go. It says she cries in the gates. Wisdom just calls you to New Jerusalem. Come here, kings. And you know what? God never says something and doesn't accomplish it. So when it's crying out, 144,000 kings, there will be 144,000 kings. At the entrance of the city, look at that. That's New Jerusalem. At the doors. How many doors? 12. Jesus is the door. And they all have one giant pearl. And we know that's one bride. Isn't this marvelous? To you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of men. God is calling future kings. But first they must be humble, and then they need to receive God's wisdom and understanding. Let's now go to verses 14 to 16. Counsel, and notice this, sound wisdom. Earthly wisdom has a wrong tone. It's off. It's like those two piano keys when you hit them together, right? Dun, 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 dun. Well, sound wisdom is from above are mine. I am understanding. Notice I have strength. That's going to tap in at the end of the sermon. Notice that. I have strength. What is that all about? By me kings reign and princes decree justice. Well, in the future, that will definitely be so, right? 144,000. It says, princes rule by me, and nobles and all the judges of the earth. So God is desiring you to sit on a throne one day. Hence the title, Kings. Future kings. That's what we are. We're princes. Get wisdom. Proverbs 9 and verse 10. How do you receive wisdom? First, you have to fear. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So is it safe to say that Abraham, when he was going to sacrifice Isaac, he followed through, right? And he was stopped. And a ram was replaced, correct? And then he said, now I know that you fear me, Abraham. And you could add, now you can have my wisdom, right? Shouldn't that be the same? Do you fear the Lord? Or do you fear men more than the Lord? I hope not. Because if you fear man, then you're tapping into their wisdom. So we fear the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy, the knowledge is of the holy is understanding. Isn't this the Sabbath day right now? Do you begin to understand that God has a holy kingdom? Not just one day, a holy kingdom. Now that is a wise saying. Let's go to Proverbs 3 and verse 13. Blessed is the man who finds wisdom and the man who gets understanding. They're connected again. Can't have one without the other. For the merchandise of it is better than the gain from silver, and its produce more than the gain of fine gold. She is more precious than rubies, and all things you can desire are not to be compared with her. Didn't Solomon? He didn't ask for that, did he? He asked for wisdom. How about you? Length of days is in her right hand. Well, if God's wisdom, what's God's right hand? Jesus. How many verses say only through Jesus is eternal life and salvation through Jesus? That's what Jesus means. And in her left hand, that's God. Now, God gives riches and honor. And when will that happen? At the resurrection. In God's realm, on a sea of glass, you will receive your eternal crown, not one that fades away. This is exciting. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. You know why it's peaceful? Because it's the kingdom of peace. And when we're on that path and we're being wise from God, we have the boots of peace. So each step, it's very peaceful, isn't it? It's not full of conflict. Oh, I shouldn't have dabbled in that like a fool. Yes, they're trying to bring you down, but it doesn't matter because peace will prevail. Now notice, she is a tree of life to those who lay a hold upon her. Did Eve want the tree of life? She took the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Just really quick, I'm going to shoot over. Hold your spot there to Genesis 3. I want you to notice this. I looked up wise. It is the first time it's mentioned in the Bible is here. The word wise. Genesis 3, verses 5 and 6 says, for God knows, that's Satan, knows that in the day you eat of it, then your eyes shall be opened, and you shall be like God, deciding good and evil. Well, we just read that in Hebrews 5. It's the complete opposite. It says, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasing to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, that's earthly wisdom. Satan knew it. She took of its fruit and ate. She also gave to her husband with her, and he ate. And the eyes of both of them were open, and they knew that they were naked. They're now full of shame. So don't let it fool you. There is a wisdom of this world, and like man's righteousness, it's very enticing. It seems so right to a man, but the end thereof is death. Now that's wisdom from God. But man disagrees with that proverb. Man disagrees. The question is, do you, future kings? Eve was fooled. She was walking with God, it says in the garden. She did not want the tree of life. Now let's read that again. We have here in the Proverbs chapter 3:18. She is a tree of life, not the knowledge of good and evil, to those who lay a hold upon her, and happy is everyone who holds her fast. So every day we should want to grab that tree of life. The Lord has founded the earth. Now that's our earth. He founded the simulation. It says, by wisdom. You know what wisdom that is? That God is going to harvest souls. And in the very first harvest was Jesus Christ. He knew it. He was sacrificed before the foundations of the earth. So before he made the sim, he knew that his right hand had to go down and give his life. God gave it, correct? Now the second harvest is coming soon. That's the harvest of the first fruits. These are all the ones he knew had to tap into God's wisdom so he can set up thrones and help him manage his government. It says, by understanding, he has established the heavens. By his knowledge, the depths are broken up, and the clouds drop down the dew. Isn't that amazing? My son, do not let them, I would say that's the law. Don't let the law depart from your eyes. Keep, there's that word again, adjective, sound wisdom. Sound. It's foolproof. Sound wisdom and discretion. And they shall be life to your soul and grace to your neck. Now, what does that mean? Grace to your neck? Favor to your neck? Well, what happens in a guillotine? No favor in that neck, right? When you lie down, you shall not be afraid. Yes, you shall lie down, and your sleep shall be sweet. Is your sleep full of sweetness? I would say that's kingdom dreams. Jesus had sweet sleep. Kingdom dreams. That's for the ones that obtain wisdom. Have no fear of sudden disaster. Now, who has fear of sudden disaster when it happens in the church? That's the seventh candlestick. Laodicea, in need of nothing, get wisdom. I got my wisdom. In need of nothing. They got everything figured out, right? Can't you see that? It says, nor of the desolation of the wicked when it comes. Now, Laodicea will have an opportunity to change. But look at the next verse. This is the sixth candlestick, the Philadelphians. For the Lord shall be your confidence and shall keep your foot from being taken. They receive a place of safety because they fled the sin. They went to a festival and God was there. You know why? Because they tapped in, because they had God's wisdom and God's understanding. They kept the commandments of the Lord. Proverbs 19. I'll read one verse, verse 8. Sermon title, he who gets wisdom loves his own soul. Now look at that. Do you love your own soul? Love your own soul? Well, look at this. If you shoot over to verse 16, it says, he who keeps the commandments keeps his own soul. He who is careless in his ways shall die. Now that's the fool. He doesn't love his own soul. He hurts himself. That's what sin does. It hurts you. The commandments shows you how to basically love yourself. That's with God's love. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know the golden rule, do unto others as you would want done unto yourself. Now, if you truly love yourself and you practice the golden rule, you're going to bear fruit from above. Now, back to verse 8. Get wisdom. If you do, you love your own soul. He who keeps understanding, there's the connection again. Now notice, shall find good. Well, this is not the understanding of man. What kind of good is that? What's the sixth fruit of the Spirit? What is the number of man? 6. But with God, it's goodness. It's on a whole nother level, this goodness. Now, the fool in Matthew 7, you read about it. He gave a parable. The fool builds his house on what? The sand. And then he dies. But the wise builds his house on Jesus, the rock. And that's what we invest in. We invest in the New Jerusalem. You know, the house that little peekaboo Jacob saw? He saw a house with God standing. Now that house is on a rock, isn't it? Right? That's the one we are investing in. That's why we need to obtain wisdom. Let's go to James 3. Now, something you might not know about James. Did you know this? James is the New Testament Proverbs. So let's do that. Let's study the Proverbs, one for each day. There's 31 of them. And you should know James like the back of your hand. Not many chapters. There's just 5 chapters in James. But it's so impactful because each verse is like a proverb. And we pick it up in verse 1, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are in dispersion. So they existed then. And we know we're in the new covenant, spiritual Israel. There's 12. This book is written to them. It's not written to the world. It says, consider it all joy, my brethren, when you are beset by various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. We're almost there. We're almost to where? Where you're crowned. That's our destination. But let endurance have its perfect work, so that you may be perfect. That's the goal. And complete, not lacking in anything. We're going to have a full measure of the Spirit. However, if anyone lacks wisdom, and we do, what does it say to do? Let him ask of God, who gives to everyone freely and does not reproach the one who asks. Now, I was preparing since Monday the sermon, and I read this. I'm like, if I'm going to give the sermon, I better keep asking and keep asking. But look at what it says next. And it shall be given to him. Now, that's a promise, but conjunction. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? It has a function. Now listen, let him ask in faith. Now stop there. Not earthly. This is not talking about God's wisdom. What is faith? The substance of things not yet seen. The conviction of those things. You have to have the kingdom on your mind. And in another verse, I believe it's in the Epistle of John, says, when you ask, better be according to God's will, not your own. So it says, not doubting at all, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven by the wind and tossed to and fro. Do not let that doubter expect that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, God doesn't want to give his wisdom to that person. Now, I want to go to James 3:13. It says, who is wise, and here's the connection again, and understand. Did you know there are that many? Wise, understanding, wisdom, understanding. Among you, who is? Let him demonstrate his works through good conduct. So you'll know them by what? Their fruits? Not someone that says, I'm your leader. No, one that leads by example. Notice conduct in the meekness of wisdom. The meek shall what? inherit the earth. That's the new earth. But if you have bitter envy and selfish ambition in your heart, do not boast and lie against Jesus. That's the truth. This wisdom does not come down. Oh, there's another wisdom? This wisdom does not come down from above, but is earthly. Oh, I went to Las Vegas the other day. Oh, what casino did you go to? Well, I went there because there was a motivational speaker. I'm all pumped up. I'm revved up, right? What are you doing Saturday? I'm working 10 hours Saturday. Oh, that's the Sabbath day. That wisdom is full of sensual and demonic. They will give you what you want temporarily. It says, because where bitter envying and selfish ambition are, there is dissension in every evil thing. They're competing with one another. Isn't that what it is? And a lot of these I've been to them, motivational seminars, big network marketing. And last Sabbath was the sermon against the organizations. It's one big network marketing, all competing. Now think about that. The organizations have their own wisdom. It's not from above. They have it all figured out. Look at this. This tells you what earthly wisdom is. Then it changes gears. But the wisdom from above is first pure. What does the Beatitude say about the pure? They shall see God. So the only way to see God is to get wisdom, future kings. Then peaceful. Okay, what beatitude has that? Yeah, the peacemakers. They shall be called the sons of God. Isn't that awesome? It says gentle, reasonable, full of mercy. They shall obtain mercy. That's another beatitude. And good fruits. Those are all God's. Impartial and without hypocrisy. Again, remember double-minded? They don't receive God's wisdom. Hypocrisy is what? Double-mindedness, the switching gears. Don't we have that today in these end times? Bipolar, you ever heard of that? Isn't that double-mindedness? They don't even agree with themselves. It says, now the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace for those who make peace. That's why we're peacemakers. Are we tapping into the greatest kingdom keg of all time? It's called wisdom. And that's the one that we should be drinking. So God gives us a whole book, the basic instructions before leaving earth, how to obtain wisdom and understanding. They go hand in hand. Now, everything here is a type. Israel in the Old Testament was a type. All those kings that sat on those thrones were a type of future kings. Let's go to one of those types. Let's go to Daniel chapter 2 and verse 19. Then the secret was revealed, the dream, to Daniel, how? In a night vision. So he saw the whole dream that Nebuchadnezzar had. And Nebuchadnezzar didn't even tell his dream. He goes, I want you to say what the dream is and then tell me what it means. They would say, gulp. But not Daniel. It says, and Daniel blessed the God of heaven. How about that? How about the wisdom that you have received? Praise you, God. Thank you for your wisdom and understanding. You know what that does? It puts you in a position to receive more. Think about it. It says, Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever. Do you think he just went, blessed be the name of God forever and ever for wisdom? You know how some kids study? I got to study today because I was told. And this is not how he said these words. It's like Hannah's prayer. You ever been moved? And you just receive something from God? You've been saved? He's probably going, blessed be the name of God forever. He was full of passion with these words. Sometimes we need to get stirred up a little. I know it's good to be serious, but sometimes We need to have passion. And I'm telling you, as a preacher of God, you will never tap into God's wisdom if you're not passionate for the Lord. And that's what God wants. And Daniel was passionate. It's obvious. It says, for wisdom and might are his, and he changes the times. Now the beast, he thinks he can at the end. Remember, times and seasons are changed. And seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings, like playing chess. Okay, pun, plop. Okay? He gives wisdom. Look at that. He gives wisdom. Why did he say that, Daniel, here? Does that ever pop out? It does now, huh? Because we're focused on it. He gives wisdom to who? The wise. It's a good move to want more. It's wise. And knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals the deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness. Do you? Who's the light? Jesus. He lights up that room so you can avoid those obstacles, like in a video game. And the light dwells with him. That's God. I thank you and praise you. Remember the word strength earlier? I said focus on. You, O God of my fathers, who has given me wisdom. Notice it connects it this time with might. Look at that. He called the weak of the world for the most part. We sung that hymn, not many wise men now are called. That's us. We're not the mighty of the earth. But what God is doing, he's going to confound the mighty, huh? He's going to show his wonders in us because he can do that if we're humble. But look at Daniel there, might. When we get to the kingdom, it will be mighty. It says, and have now made known to me what we desired of you. It's all about God. For you have made known to us the king's matter. How many people then would want to take credit? That's what man's wisdom. Hey, that's a little hint, huh? This is why man's wisdom fails. They want their own credit. It doesn't come from above. It's their wisdom. That's not good. Now let's go to verse 48. Verse 48. Then the king made Daniel great. Isn't God going to make us great? I'm going to say it again. I'm going to ask it. Isn't God going to make us great?
Yes.
Absolutely. And you know whose greatness it is? It's an extension of himself. You are his sons and daughters. It says, and gave him many great gifts. Is God going to give us many great gifts?
Yes.
A little test, a little test. What hand will give it to you? The left hand. The gifts. Well, you could argue the eternal life is through the right. Long life is through the right, and gifts and honor are on his left. You know, promotions and your palace and all those things. And made him ruler over all the province of what? Babylon. That's a type. He will make us rulers. You got to have a vision. What's the proverb say? He without vision shall perish. That's the fool. He doesn't love his own life. And chief of the prefects over all the wise men of Babylon. Look at, they're over other wise men. That's how God's system's going to work. In his kingdom, it's going to be a hierarchy. One giant pyramid. You know who's on the top? The cap. Yeah, we got God. And Daniel asked the king, and he appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over all the affairs of the province of Babylon. Daniel would say something, Shadrach would go, okay, Daniel. And Shadrach would have others, and he would tell his workers, and things would get done around there. They're out there moving, getting things done. And Nebuchadnezzar was wise. But this is all types. You read the Bible. You have Mordecai. He's the right-hand man of the king of Persia. How did that happen? Esther is the queen on the other side. God is going to have glorious kings with his wisdom, doing his handiwork, all summoned up in a beautiful, beautiful bride. That's what you're called into. Do you have that vision? Is it a good thing to ask for more, to obtain wisdom each and every day that you live? Now, let's close with Psalm 37, because this is a future. Wisdom is the ability to see the future. Psalm 37:29, we read the following: "The righteous shall inherit the earth." Now, it can't be this earth, because it says, "and dwell in it forever." Well, that's the new earth. I read the book. It's at the end. It's incorruptible earth. Isn't that beautiful? The meek shall inherit the earth. The mouth of the righteous speaks wisdom. That's God's wisdom, right? Forever. So imagine a kingdom on that hill, that mountain, Zion, right? You have New Jerusalem and all the kings there. Imagine in the hallways just listening. The righteous speaking godly wisdom. And his tongue talks of justice. Now, we read justice and we go, oh, there's been a rape there. We got to put that man in. We need justice. And there's sin with justice. Well, if you look up the Hebrew, it actually means judgment. Paul even wrote, don't take your brother to court. Don't you know that you're going to manage or judge angels? Because there's going to be a lot of management that's going to be needed when you have billions of spirit beings interacting and producing. And we are going to be the kings to help God manage this. Not doing it all alone like a Moses was. Remember? Moses had to have 70 others help him. God showed him that through a man named Jethro. Why is that in the Bible? Because it's shouting out, you're going to be like those 70. Isn't this exciting that we have access to the greatest wisdom of all time? So it says, the righteous shall inherit the earth, and in these walls, these hallways of justice, of beauty, behind those pearly gates, will be the talk of wisdom. Just wherever you go. Isn't that beautiful? What about that kingdom coffee shop? What would it be like? Would there be a coffee shop where you can go and meet others from the different 12 tribes and talk? Guaranteed, it's going to be an awesome conversation. The question is, do you want to be there? Because Jesus came with the mission, and he went to the foundations. You, Andrew, follow me. Foundation. You, Peter, follow me. He's fishing. Foundation. He collected 12 foundations, and he said, truly, truly, I say to you, foundations, in the resurrection, when the Son of Man shall sit upon the throne of his glory, you, 12, shall sit on 12 thrones, judging, there's that word, the 12 tribes of Israel. They're going to be judging, managing all the 144,000, 12,000 from each one. And they will all do it with godly wisdom. So calling all future kings, get wisdom.